Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, helping you prepare for Thanksgiving with fresh produce, quality meats, and all the ingredients for your favorite holiday dishes. Learn more at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
It's been warm, dry, and honestly, not very November-like across the Front Range. But that could finally change. A big weather shift is headed our way next week. Colder temperatures are moving in, and with them, a decent shot at snow across Colorado. When will you have the best chance to see flakes on the Front Range? Midweek, around Wednesday the 19th. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. Coming up, is Colorado quietly slipping into a recession? CPR journalists take a closer look at the warning signs.
We had such sustained high growth for so long while other states were lagging in their own recoveries, and now they're sort of catching up.
Then the election brought big changes to some school boards, and that has things getting hot in one suburban county.
If I may, I wasn't disrespectful towards their viewpoints. I was just
Please don't interrupt the director.
We'll take you to the middle of the debate. And a sculptor in Loveland is getting a new challenge in her studio.
The heart is where I begin.
It's Thursday, November 13th. Here's the news in Colorado today. You might have seen the red flags, a neighbor losing a job, home prices falling, food getting more expensive. These warning signs for Colorado's economy have been flashing for a while now. CPR journalists are reporting a new periodic series of stories on what's really happening with the state's economy and whether it could be time to use the dreaded R word, recession. Business reporter Sarah Mulholland is here today to kick us off. Sarah, what are the signs that you see for Colorado's economy that have raised your eyebrows?
The job market is the biggest thing. Colorado's job growth started slowing more than a year ago, so that's well before Trump took office again. So that's when Colorado fell behind the U.S. when it came to the pace of job growth, and it hasn't been able to catch up since. So 6 years ago, Colorado ranked 6th in the nation for job growth.
Got it. Six years ago. What is Colorado now?
So it dropped as low as 47th at one point earlier this year. And last year, it was 22nd in the nation. Big picture, Colorado's job market is weakening, and it has been for some time.
When I hear a huge drop like that, the first question that pops into my head is why? So can we point to something specific?
Most likely there are lots of things going on at once. I think it's helpful to consider that Colorado, in the decade following the housing crisis, was pretty far ahead of the U.S. in terms of job growth. The job market here was really on a tear. So Brian Lewandowski is an economist with CU's Leeds School of Business, and this is what he had to say.
We had such sustained high growth for so long while other states were lagging in their own recoveries. And now they're sort of catching up, and they're posting higher growth rates than what we are.
So it was a really hot place to live at that time. Lots of people were moving into the state, and now not as many people are moving to the state, and it's just not booming the same way it was back then. The Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, which analyzes financial data throughout the region, says Colorado's weak job growth right now is due to weak hiring in the construction and technology sectors. So they're pinning it on those two sectors primarily. There has been a pullback in hiring nationally in technology. And since Colorado had more tech workers as a percentage of its total workforce, that could be a drag on job creation.
Okay, so that's jobs. I want to ask what is keeping me up at night. The housing market. How's that doing?
So as we've talked about on this show before, the market is stagnant right now. Homes are sitting on the market for months. Denver has one of the slowest housing markets of all major U.S. cities. And it's another instance where the state may have been a victim of its own success. because housing here got a lot more expensive in the past decade. And now some people are priced out and there's less interest in moving here. So the housing market has slowed across the country because of high interest rates, but Colorado stands out for how slow it's become.
I used the word recession before, but I want to be really cautious in using that. So does all of this that is happening in Colorado, does it all add to a contraction that could qualify as a recession?
There's no perfect definition for a recession, but economists generally look for 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. And by that measure, neither Colorado nor the country is in a recession. Lewandowski says it's a useful barometer because it captures all the other things we're talking about.
I do think that GDP is an indicator that does pick up a lot of those other signals, right? So if we have negative employment growth or a drop in income, or a sharp downturn in retail sales or a stalling of investment, those are all sort of components that go into GDP.
The last time GDP was measured was in June. Colorado showed small growth still at that time. We'll get another reading in December. And something to keep in mind is that recessions often aren't identified until months after they start.
But officially, as of now, we are not in a recession. But I want to ask, though, why would the official declaration matter?
Well, it can help policymakers respond, or it could help households plan ahead. Right now, people responding to a survey about consumer confidence are way less optimistic about what's going to happen in the next 6 months than they were at the start of the year. And that's according to the kind of gold standard consumer confidence index from the nonpartisan think tank called the Conference Board. It measures by region, not by state, so it's limited to the Mountain West. But what it says is that people feel okay about their situations right now, but they do not feel good about their future financial prospects in Colorado and the neighboring states.
CPR's Sarah Mulholland. Thank you.
You're welcome, Marlo.
We also want to know about how you feel about your own financial situation. Email us at coloradotoday@cpr.org. Many school boards in Colorado are seeing shakeups after this month's election, and one in particular had a board meeting that got really tense this week. The reasons why bring up questions about the role of outgoing elected officials and what they're able to do before leaving office. CPR's Jenny Bernstein has been covering this and is here to explain why. Hey, Jenny.
Hey.
Where are we talking about? And really set the scene for us for this meeting.
Yeah, this is Douglas County. It's south of Denver. The board's conservative majority is on its way out, and that board held a contentious meeting Tuesday night after some agenda items drew some pretty heavy criticism.
What were those about?
One was a controversial proposal on transgender athletes around what teams they can compete on. That one didn't end in a vote. For now, it was just a discussion. But it did bring a lot of very strong opinions. The other issue, the big one, would change how charter schools operate.
Okay, so again, we have a lame duck majority. What were they trying to do?
This conservative bloc used their final meeting to push a resolution to change charter school contracts. The tension peaked after a presentation by Miles Cortez. He represents one of the charter schools who helped draft the proposal. Some of his remarks criticized the district and some public commenters. So first, you're going to hear a pointed response to him from Douglas County School Board member Susan Meek.
We sit here and we listen and we may agree or disagree, but it's not okay to be disrespectful towards their viewpoints.
Well, if I may, I wasn't disrespectful towards their viewpoints. I was just
Please
pointing
don't
out.
interrupt the director.
Okay, that's board member Brad Geiger jumping in.
Let her ask her question, and then answer it. You have shown your disrespect to us and to the 4 elected members. Do not do that again, please.
I feel like there's been disrespect towards our staff, the way you have phrased things.
And to be clear, those 2 board members were not up for re-election this year.
Okay, yeah, that is really tense. But beside this moment, what are the specifics of this proposal?
Yeah, so charter schools, we should say, are publicly funded, but they run independently. Right now, they must renew their contracts with the district every 5 years. This resolution would have extended that to 10 years for schools deemed, quote, high-performing.
And what difference would that make?
Supporters say it would bring stability and help charters get better loan terms. Here's board member Becky Myers.
I would be afraid that all of a sudden we would have board that's coming in that are not going to be favorable to our charter schools.
Only 3 of the 7 members in the end supported it.
Why is that?
Board members said it was too rushed and not all charter schools were consulted. Critics argued the community should have had input, and that raises familiar concerns about transparency that's dogged this board.
How so?
The Douglas County School Board has had a lot of turmoil. If you remember, in 2022, it fired its superintendent. That triggered a lawsuit and public backlash. When this board came to power 4 years ago, they promised transparency and accountability. But later on, they faced more lawsuits for holding secret meetings out of the public eye. And this is at a time when nationwide school boards have gotten more and more partisan.
Okay, well, what about the rest of the state? Are there any big takeaways to share from those other elections last week?
You know, one trend stood out. Candidates backed by teachers' unions performed really well across the state in places like Denver, Jefferson County, Fort Collins, Pueblo, Mesa County, and Summer County.
Interesting. Are there any reasons for that?
It seems that after all the pandemic-era divisions that ushered in more political boards, it seems like many voters wanted a return to normalcy. Others, like in Denver, appeared turned off by outside money influencing local school board races. And I will say, conservative school boards kept control in El Paso County. Their boards have waded into controversial curriculums, gender in sports, and book bans.
CPR's Jenny Brandine, thank you for reporting.
Thank you.
You can see sculptures made by Colorado artist Jane DeDecker at public installations all over the country. But to see her next big commission, you'll need to plan a trip to Paris. Here's a hint about who DeDecker is sculpting now in her studio in Loveland. DeDecker is known for her depictions of famous women. The newest commission features singer, dancer, and actor Josephine Baker. The sculpture is in honor of 100 years since Baker left the U.S. and moved to France. There, she found more freedom as a Black woman and performer, and her career took off. DeDecker told CPR News about the challenge to capture Baker's essence in bronze.
I wanted her to be active. Her whole life was accomplishments.
Josephine Baker was born in St. Louis, Missouri. She was still a child when she witnessed the violence of the infamous East St. Louis massacre of hundreds of Black residents. Baker grew up knowing that she wanted to spread joy.
She wanted to dance. I mean, she danced to keep warm. I think there's a quote that she said, "I'll dance until I die."
Baker moved to New York as a teen, where she danced in Broadway, then to Paris in 1925. In the City of Light, she became an international star, an icon of the Roaring '20s, and the first Black woman to star in a major motion film. She also became a spy for the French resistance in World War II. And if that was enough, she was a civil rights activist, the only woman, in fact, to speak officially at the March on Washington.
You're together as salt and pepper, just as you should be.
When I start to sculpt a figure, I immediately start with the spine, the head position, but the heart is where I begin. Sometimes I'll even layer that area so that you can kind of feel and maybe see where the heart lies.
Baker's heart and talent were immense, adopting 12 children from all over the world. DeDecker says in this piece, she's focusing on making a celebrity and a hero feel accessible. The statue will be placed on a park bench in Baker's old neighborhood in Paris.
So it's very natural, candid. You know, there's room on the bench where you could sort of lean against her. I always come up with a term I call tangible greatness, where these great women are on the level where you can relate to them.
The sculpture of Baker is titled Timeless Grace. As As DeDecker manipulates the clay, she attempts to capture the fluid movement of her subject.
It has more life when you see the fluidity, and a lot of times I will keep the mark of my fingers in the original,
leaving the work intentionally slightly unfinished, suggesting the hope that Josephine Baker's influence in the world lives on.
I feel like we are unfinished, as the human race, or even our lives, we're unfinished. So I really like my marks and my gestures to be just a part of that unfinished story that's life.
You can read more about DeDecker's work and see pictures in the link in our show notes. Reporting for today's show came from CPR's Ryan Warner. Follow Colorado Today in your podcast app. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, helping you prepare for Thanksgiving with fresh produce, quality meats, and all the ingredients for your favorite holiday dishes. Learn more at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.